What's up, guys? Rick Cactus here. Nah, I'm just kidding. It's me, Bonds. So, today we're gonna go over Warlock movement, essentially. So, and to be more specific, top tree Dawnblade movement. Because that's typically what you'll run if you're being a Warlock. Um, the reason I'm making this video is because I do a lot of comp help and a lot of trials help. And I just play with a lot of people, and many of them have commented about how much they like my movement and how they think it's like really good. And I decided that, and on a private match and show them what to do, I decided why not make a video and just refer them to that. So like if they have questions again, I can show them the video instead of like re-showing them over and over. So the first thing you're gonna want to take into consideration is you need to have burst glide. Burst glide is the only way to go. If you use any of the other glides, what I'm about to teach you will not work. Now, I am on a PS5, but that doesn't mean what I'm about to do you can't do on a PS4 or anything else like that. All this is available on any console or PC. So I do have really bad stick drift, so if I start walking forward or my controller starts looking up for some reason, that's just my stick drift. This video is heavily edited, so there will be no mistakes. Haha. So again, remember you want to have burst glide. You just move significantly faster, and your Icarus dashes will be way better. So we're gonna go over the way you Icarus dash. Now, some people may not realize that there's different ways to Icarus dash, and that's the first thing you're gonna want to learn. So we're going to look at the normal Icarus dash, which is this, right? We all know this Icarus dash. But for many of you, you don't realize that there's another way to Icarus dash, which is, it looks like this. Now, I'm going to eventually get to that, but we're going to work step by step on how to get to that point. So, there's two types of Icarus dashes. There's the normal Icarus dash, which I just went backwards, which I just showed you, and then there's the big one. I call it the big Icarus dash, and it looks like this. It looks like this. Oh, that was a normal one, my bad. But that's what it looks like. So I call it the big Icarus dash because they go further, so I call them the big one. So the way you wanna do it is, instead of just jumping and Icarus dashing, you actually want to activate your burst glide right before you Icarus dash. So I'll show you, and I'll also make sure you're sprinting. So you sprint, activate burst glide, Icarus dash. Do you see how much further you go as opposed to just running and then Icarus dashing? So I'll show again. You run, burst glide, Icarus dash. And then I'll show a normal Icarus dash, and then followed by a big Icarus dash. So this is a normal Icarus dash, and that's a big one. As you can see, there's a pretty big difference. So I'll do it again. You do a jump, burst glide, Icarus dash. And then you can begin to go pretty fast by doing it. Once you get that down by activating your burst glide and then Icarus dashing. And make sure to, I hold my jump, so like, you activate it, hold it, and then, so once you press your burst glide, you press it, and then you Icarus dash. So I'm going to show you, you're going to go, activate it, land, and then do the same thing. So we mastered this, right? You got that down? So now we're going to do them, we're going to land on the ground and then do it again, and then you can go really far. So you like this, land, activate it again. So do you hear how I'm activating a burst glide right before I Icarus dash every time? I'll do it one more time. Activate burst glide, Icarus dash, land, activate burst glide, Icarus dash. You see that? Now I'll show the original way that people have been doing it if they didn't know about the big Icarus dash. Watch how much distance I cover, like how much less distance I cover. Do you see how slow that is? As opposed to, look at that. So that's how I go really far, like really, really far and really, really fast. Now, I'm gonna teach a new thing. So, warlocks can jump up, and they can also descend glide. So they can burst glide up, and they can burst glide down. So after you've learned this Icarus dash, you can actually combine the two, and you can do them back to back, which you may have seen you may have saw at the beginning of this video. So I'll show you. Do you see that? So the way you do it is you're gonna sprint, activate your burst glide, Icarus dash, descend burst glide because you're in the air after your Icarus dash, and then you're gonna activate Icarus dash again. So I'll show you. You jump, activate Icarus. Oh, sorry, I misspoke. Let's restart. You're gonna jump, activate burst glide, Icarus dash, descend burst glide. Well, I was out of Icarus dashes, but let me. It's good. I'm teaching you the breakdown. All right, so you jump, activate burst glide, Icarus dash, descend burst glide, Icarus dash. And do you see how I was able to do them back to back without having to land on the ground? So I'll do it again. Burst glide, descend burst glide. And this is really important because when people learn the first big Icarus dash, like this one, they don't realize that you can do it again back to back. So a lot of guys, when they're learning, they'll do this. Do you see how it's the small Icarus dash afterwards? Or the normal Icarus dash? So look. So this is the two big ones. Look how far you go. And your momentum doesn't stop. You still have that same speed. But if you do a big one and then a small one, do you see how all your momentum gets shut down? So yeah, just remember, it's run, activate your burst glide, Icarus dash, descend burst glide, Icarus dash. And then you have a lot more speed and you can go a lot further. Now, I'm going to teach you something that's really crucial that people don't realize, is that there's the bunny hop afterwards you can do. I call it the bunny hop, and it's part of the reason I'm able to move so far and so fast. So what happens is, after you've done your Icarus dashes, do you notice how you have a lot of speed? So like this, and do you see how I'm going pretty far forward? So you go like this, you activate your Icarus dashes, and then do you see how you're still going? So you can carry that momentum even further if you activate a burst glide. So you're gonna do your two Icarus dashes, land on the ground, then you're gonna activate your do a little bunny hop afterwards, and tap your burst glide just a little bit, and it'll keep you going further. So I'll show you. I messed it up a little bit. Do you see how you have the momentum though? It's because my stick drift is bugging pretty bad right now. If you can see it like twitching a lot. But I'll show you what I mean. So do you see how I'm going way further because of that little burst glide I did? I'll show you what happens if you don't do that little burst glide tap. Yeah, you see how you don't go as far because you didn't tap your burst glide? It's kind of like if you play D1, like with Twilight Garrison, it's like Titan skating, but instead now it's Warlock skating. So you do that little boost to carry the momentum. I snagged my foot on the top of those stairs. 1 second. But you do that to carry your momentum. Do you see how far I go? Like I kind of stopped like right there with the bunny hop. But the crucial thing is it's like a love tap. You're not holding down your burst glide after you do that, because what will happen is it'll put you in the air and make you vulnerable. So I'll show you what I mean. So if you do that and then you hold it, you're just gonna go up really high. So instead you just wanna give it a little love tap, a little burst glide love tap. Okay? Now, for some of you, you may be realizing that my Icarus dashes, like, they look pretty smooth compared to doing this. I'm like doing them like almost instantaneously back to back. That'll just take time. As you practice your Warlock Icarus dashes more and more and more, that'll just take a lot of time. So you'll get to a point where you activate your Icarus dash, and then immediately after you're activating, I mean, you'll activate your burst glide, and then immediately after you'll activate your Icarus dash. So it'll look smoother and smoother. So when you're first learning, you may activate a burst glide and then Icarus dash. But do you see how long I did that burst glide before I activated my Icarus dash? You can begin to cut that time down more and more. So instead of doing this, you could do this. So I don't know if you can hear the burst glide right before, so I'll make it more exaggerated. Instead of doing this, you're doing this. And that time will get cut down more and more and more as you practice. When you first start practicing and you're trying to cut your time, you may Icarus dash first on accident. It's all a timing thing, but eventually you'll be able to do the burst glide and then the Icarus dash almost exactly at the same time. But it'll be sort of muscle memory. Yeah. So a big thing is the bunny hop I was telling you about. I use this all the time. That little bunny hop burst glide I do. I use it all the time because it allows me to not have to use both of my Icarus dashes, like to gain a lot of speed and distance. The reason I bring that up is because when people are first learning Warlock and using top tree Dawnblade, they think that if they use one Icarus dash, they gotta use both, which is not true. I learned that it's really nice to try to use only one as movement and the other as like an escape. You're only really gonna use both if you're really zooming. Like if I'm going, like if you're going a short distance, it's nice to have one as your movement and the other as your escape. Sort of like a hunter, like so you have your movement and then you have like a little, and then your second Icarus dash is as if you're a hunter with their dodge. The reason I bring that up is because once you have no Icarus dash, the Warlock movement is trash. Like without your Icarus dash, what are you gonna do? Oh, float around? I mean, okay, that's great, but the Icarus dash is what makes this class so amazing. Like it's a neutral game, so good. So, for instance, if I know I'm gonna start over here. So if I know there's guys over here, like on table or platform and like behind that box right there, instead of doing this, instead of doing two Icarus dashes and trying to engage them, I could be getting, like, right here I'll be getting, like, shit on because I'll be getting shot. But let's do the bunny hop instead after one Icarus dash. So I go like this, and then I bunny hop. I could do, like, and then, for instance, if I'm, like, in an engagement and I'm shooting, like, I can use an Icarus dash to avoid gunfire. That's just an example of what I'm talking about. Same thing here. Let's say I was over here, and I'm having an engagement with a guy, like, right there, like, next to a box. And then let's say I make him weak and he's right here. Instead of doing this, like, now I'm all over here and he's right there, so he could be shitting on me because I have, like, very little cover when I'm here. So, instead, I could do the bunny hop. And then, boom, I could shotgun them, because typically they're hiding behind this box, and they're trying to come up and shotgun you. This is another example of why the bunny hop's amazing, because let's say you didn't know how to bunny hop, and you did only one Icarus dash because you knew you'd get all the way over there. If you don't have the bunny hop, watch what happens. Like, you lose all your momentum. Even if I didn't, let's say I just did a bunny hop without the burst glide tap, the little love tap. Do you see how I don't have that speed and I don't have that altitude? So the bunny hop allows you to control how high, like I said, you can hold it so you go up higher. It allows you to have a lot of control after your Icarus dash, which is really nice. So mastering that little skate after, I'm calling it the bunny hop, but maybe it's the skate, but mastering that is really crucial. So just remember, you don't have to use both your Icarus dashes, and that, I seriously think that's the key, like one of the big keys to mastering top tree Dawnblade is you don't have to use both. I see so many guys use both all the time, and it makes them vulnerable. They go out into fire, like right here. I could be like this, and then I could come back into cover. But so many guys, they'll go in, and then look, like instead I have to slide, and all this time I took turning around like that, it's just you leave yourself more vulnerable. So it's nice to always have one in your back pocket, you know. That doesn't mean don't use, but like you can't use both. Because I do. I use plenty. I use them both all the time. But just take into consideration, truly, that you don't have to use both, and I think you'll realize how much that'll save you. So I'm gonna show you. So now you've been seeing me use burst glide, and I'm gonna show you what happens if you use balance glide, for instance, because people may not realize. So as you saw, here's what happens if I use the balance glide and I trade an Icarus dash. Okay, do you see that? Do you see how I'm going nowhere? I'll even try to do a bunny hop after. Look at that. Look how garbage that is. Now look. I'm gonna go back to burst glide. Watch this. Look at this. Look at. I'm zooming. I'm out. I'm gone. Now, you should also realize that if you do activate Heat Rising, you can't do the skating. Do you see? For some reason, it just doesn't work very well. It's because it's trying to hold you in the air. So, yeah, it's trying to hold you in the air, which is the problem with Heat Rising. But it's still a great perk. I'm just letting you know. Take that into consideration that you won't be able to really skate at all if you're activating Heat Rising. Now, some of you may not realize this, but when you're in your super, you can actually do the big Icarus dashes in your super, and it's very noticeable. So I'll show you my super. You like this? And here's the normal Icarus dash, right? That everybody knows about. Right? And some of you may have realized, oh man, I've seen some guys just like fly around the map, and that's because they're doing the big Icarus dashes. Let me show you a big Icarus dash in the super. Look at this. As opposed to this. I could do this instead. Do you see how far I'm going? Do you see how I'm flying? Like I'm going really, really fast. So that's another big thing, is your super becomes way faster and way more versatile because you can fly around. Like if they're in their spawn, you can fly around the map. Like you can really zoom. Now remember what I taught you about the big Icarus, how you can do them back to back. Remember how I said you have to activate your burst glide, your descend burst glide after the first one? So this is the same thing for the super, because that super has infinite Icarus dashes. So essentially, the key is anytime you want to Icarus dash, always activate your burst glide before you do it. That's the key, okay? Anytime you want to activate your Icarus dash, just press burst glide before. So whether that be you're in the air or on the ground, make sure you activate your burst glide before. So for the Warlock super, I'll show you. So for the Warlock super, if I activate a big Icarus dash, right? I don't want to do this because I'm not going to really go anywhere. So if I activate a descend burst glide, I'll go like way further. Do you see that? Do you see how I'm zooming? Also, for me, I've noticed in the super, when you blast off the ground, you go significantly faster and further. So instead of doing like this, there's like a bug with Icarus dash, but instead of, do you see how off the ground I'm really zooming? So in the air, it keeps that momentum, but I've found for myself that being on the ground allows you to have just more control, and you go way faster. So I'll try. Remember how I taught you guys at the beginning that before you learn how to do them back to back in the air, just land on the ground and just keep doing it. I suggest that in your super you stick to that. Not that you have to always, but if you're really trying to go somewhere and you want like control at the same time, try to stay on the ground more. So remember this, how I taught you guys, master the first one, and then we can eventually get to doing them back to back in the air. Well, that's what you'll do for the super all the time. That's my opinion. I found that to be the most helpful. Now, let's talk about armor stats. So here are my armor stats. And some of you may be looking and going, whoa, your mobility is really low. And that's purposeful. So the reason why is because on top tree Dawnblade, the lower your mobility, the faster you Icarus dash. Like the further you, like, the more efficient your Icarus dashes become. And that's because every time you, the higher mobility, when you burst glide, it brings you up higher and you become more floaty. Like, yeah, you just become more floaty. And by becoming more floaty, your Icarus dashes aren't as good. Remember in Heat Rising, this is like maximum floaty, you know? So look. So that's maximum floaty. Not saying that that's what your Icarus dashes will be like with 100 mobility, but that's just what maximum floaty is like. So if you have lower mobility, you don't float as much, so you stay lower to the ground, which allows you to have a straight line of trajectory. So think about it like a graph. So if you have two lines that are the same distance, but one's up at an angle, the one up at an angle is not going to go as far forward as the one going completely forward, if that makes sense. So instead of going like this, like up, you're going, with your lower mobility, you'll stay lower to the ground, so you'll be going straight. Now, this is all preference, of course. Some guys like having really high mobility so they can get really nasty angles with their snipes, or they can float really high up. I personally, I like to shotgun a lot. I do snipe, but I like to shotgun a lot, and it keeps me lower to the ground and allows me to just, I like being lower to the ground because I personally think being in the air too much, it like makes you weaker, because think about it, you're super vulnerable in the air, you have no cover. And in Destiny, there's a penalty if you're in the air. You lose in-air accuracy. Even with Icarus grip, you still have in-air accuracy. Like, you have a deduction to your in-air accuracy. Like, so I prefer to stay on the ground as much as possible. And by having lower mobility, your Icarus dashes are faster because you're not going up as much. So that you're more closer to being in a straight line. So you cover more distance that way. That's the best way I can explain it. If you don't understand anything I'm saying, just take this and trust me, and you can look it up if you don't believe me, but lower mobility allows you to Icarus dash faster, and I like that. That's what I like. Higher mobility, you don't Icarus dash as fast. It's not like crazy significant, but it's significant enough, like in higher tier gameplay, which is what, or like, for me, I notice, I feel like I'm floaty too much. I feel like I'm just floating too much. I'm in the air too much when I have the higher mobility. Like, I feel like I'm on the moon. That's a way to describe it. With lower mobility, I feel like I'm on Earth. With higher mobility, I feel like I'm on the moon, and the gravity is less. The gravitational pull is less. So, one other thing is, I main Ophidians. That's my preference for top tree Dawnblade, and the reason for that is because I really like the improved whip and ready speed, so I can whip out my shotgun better and faster, and same thing for my hand cannon. As well as it being able to reload. Everything's able to reload faster, which is just really nice. And that's really nice for the 120 meta, for instance. So, like, my True Prophecy reloads fairly fast with Ophidians. And I really like that. So if I do it without Ophidians... You see how slow that is? I also probably don't have hand cannon... Oh, I do. Look at that. I have hand cannon loader. And look at this. As opposed to with Ophidians... Look how fast that is. That's so crucial. That's crucial to me. The other thing is melee range is insane. So Warlocks already have 1 meter extra of melee range as opposed to any other class, but their melee is slower. And then Ophidians add another meter to that. So what I really like to do is if like there's somebody around like this corner right here, let's say they're around this corner, I do this all the time. I'll go to my Celestial. I'll come around, boom, shotgun them, and then I can melee them. And my melee is insane. It's absolutely nuts. I'm telling you. Again, I'm a hardcore Ophidian fan, but as you probably know, and many of you are probably watching this video thinking I'm on crack, transversive. So many guys love transversives, and I completely understand why. Having transversives is awesome. It actually makes your Icarus dashes faster and further. You actually go significantly, not significantly, but you're zooming more than on Ophidian. So I'll show you. Look, like, look how far I went, and that wasn't even trying very hard. Do you see how the Icarus dashes look a little bigger? like they go a little further than the Ophidian ones. Like, do you see how much more distance I'm covering? And it's really nice because, of course, if you run, you get to reload. But look at that. The Icarus dashes are bigger. So some guys really like that. They really like that super zooming movement speed. And that's great. You go for it. So I just wanted to make that clear that for people who are learning top 3 Dawnblade, if they really want that distance, I highly suggest transversives. So either Ophidians or transversives. So... But yeah, you cover way more distance. It is enticing, but then for me, like when it really comes down to like 1v1s and like gameplay like that, like I really like to have my Ophidians because I feel like I can pull out my guns because it has faster weapon ready speed. So I really like to be able to do that, reload my gun, have that melee range. I feel like everything's just better. If everything feels better, all my weapons feel significantly better, my gameplay feels better with Ophidians, because everything essentially is better with Ophidians on. But the speed you get from transversives is pretty insane, I have to admit. Now this is more of an advanced thing, and this probably can really only happen on PS5, but maybe not. I don't remember doing it on PS4 much. I did, but it wasn't as helpful. You have to remember that when you're Icarus dashing, you are in a third-person perspective, which allows you to see more for a little bit. And so what I'll do sometimes is to check my surroundings. If I'm getting surrounded, but I can't really figure out where people are, but I need to be moving so I don't get attacked, I'll use it to I can check this lane while Icarus dashing across. So I'll give you an example. So and this is how most people will probably go across this, right? They'll just Icarus dash like this. You can actually flick really hard to the left and then move forward again, and I'll show you what I mean. Do you see that? Do you see how I looked across while Icarus dashing? So I messed it up a little there. It's kind of it's a muscle memory thing, so do you see how I looked down the lane? Now it may seem like, oh, Bonds, bro, you barely saw anything. You're right, I did barely see anything. But it's enough to allow me to know if there was a guy there, if I'm being pushed up. Or, for instance, like, if, like, there's a guy here and I thought I saw somebody on me, like, if I was shooting a guy here and I was like, oh, shit, I could redirect myself. This is more of a 105 FOV thing, I think, but I feel that I can see way more because of my 105 FOV, and since you're in a third-person perspective with Icarus Dash, you're able to see a lot more and see your surroundings. So that has helped me quite a lot. If I was in an engagement here and then somebody started shooting me there, I was able to like look around. You can just see a lot. So you'll see me sometimes like in my gameplay. My screen will shake like that when I'm Icarus Dashing. It's me looking around my surroundings. So I'll like go like that. I'll just like it's a quick check. So that's just something you could think about. Yeah, I think I've got everything down basically. Burst glide again. That's your first step to learning how to Icarus dash better. And then I like to have lower mobility. I say around 40 or 50. The reason I say that is because when you get really low, you can't jump it very high and hold it for very long, and you can't bait people very easily. So I like to say 40 or 50 is like the sweet spot. That's my opinion personally. 40 is probably the sweet spot. But 50 is fine too. That's my personal opinion again. Yeah. So again, you don't get discouraged, by the way, if your Icarus dashes aren't like looking like mine after watching this video or putting it's a lot of muscle memory. Honestly, it's truly a lot of muscle memory to get your Icarus dashes down really fast. But now that you know how to do it and all the steps, as you practice it more and more, you will get it down. Trust me. It'll take time. And remember what I said. You don't have to use both at the same time all the time. Like, you can just save one. I think that's really important. But yeah, just something to keep in mind. Also, make sure you have traction, of course, in case some of you didn't. Traction is probably the most important mod. One of the most important mods in the game. But yeah, to put this all together and give you an example of me utilizing all my Icarus dash moves and all my movement, I'm gonna be posting a video of me doing double comp help after this video. It was a really intense game. It was 3-stack versus me doing double comp help, and this team was going for it. I'm telling you, bro, their teamwork was on point. They were going all in. It was insane. I had to sweat the hard, like probably like the hardest I've had to sweat before. Like not the hardest I've had to sweat before, but I definitely was sweating all. I was going all in. You're gonna see me going utilizing my Icarus dashes the best I can. I'm letting you know that the video you're gonna see after this video is me like utilizing everything to the best of my ability, and you're gonna see like the range of Ophidians and how I use them. So you'll see what I'm talking about. I think it's really great gameplay, and I think you can learn a lot from everything I utilize. You're like, oh yeah, he did that and he did this. So I highly suggest watching that video, and I hope all of you have a great day. And Cooch out. I mean, Bonds out. I'm just kidding. Have a nice day. See ya.